Welcome back to the Lipoedema Podcast. I'm your host, Shell, and today I am here all alone because I'm going to give you a bit of an update on what has been happening in my life lately. It's been a crazy almost 7 weeks. I am coming to you fairly live, 36 hours from published time. I am recording this because things change so quickly around here. I wanted to give you the most up-to-date information on what is happening with us. So fingers crossed shit doesn't hit the fan in the next 36 hours. And what I'm telling you has changed already. But 7 weeks ago, my darling husband, Dave, who I've been married to for 21 years, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So that's a bit shit. It's taken a bit to, you can't get used to it. I was going to say it's taken a bit to get used to, but I'm not used to it. It's not something you get used to. You just have to, day by day, try and figure out what the day got in store for you. So, we have been navigating that. I've been busy in that, and that's why I want to talk to you today, because sometimes we can let our self-care go, and that is something that I did do initially. I was just all in for my husband and my family, and I started really feeling depleted, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good for my headspace. It wasn't good for me physically. And so I'm slowly trying to piece everything back together. So I guess in times of crisis, it can be really important to make sure you put your mask on first, which is something we're told when we're on the plane. And I guess that's something that I really wanted to touch on today, that no matter how good our processes are, how good our self-care is, sometimes things come out of nowhere, and we have to try and figure out what's going to work for right now. So I sat down and I realized that I really needed to start. So I guess I really had to be realistic about what I could do, what I couldn't do, and prioritize myself a little bit, which is really tricky when your whole family is sitting with this terrible thing that's happened to them. Anyway, so I'll go a little bit into that. I'll put some links in below if you want more information, if you need help with anything, because this, the conversations I've had these last 7 weeks, you don't ever want to have. Tiana and I have always been very transparent with everybody, and I am not afraid of tough conversations. And I think when you're advocating for yourself, you need to not be afraid of these tough conversations. So I'm just going to share, and you can skip past if it all gets too much. So my husband, I think I've mentioned on another episode that he'd quit drinking, and that we were eating a more keto lifestyle. And so that all started because at Christmas time he hurt his back. He always has sort of a sore back, but he hurt his back, and so he was drinking quite a bit to numb the pain. And so when we got back from our holiday, he decided to quit drinking because it wasn't serving him well and it wasn't a good use of his time. And so we changed up our lifestyle. And then on his birthday, he had some x-rays done of his back because his back was just really sore. And nothing, they just said normal degeneration because, he's 54 years old. So we went to an acupuncturist and he was helping. He said that, there was some kidney blockage and that he thought that's what was happening. So he was focusing on that. And then, a month later, he was getting gallbladdery type pain. And I've had that before. And, it feels like you're having a bit of a heart attack type thing, and referred pain into your shoulder and your arm. And so, he went back to the acupuncturist and they started working on that. And I was using essential oils to try and break it all down, and castor oil packs. I was doing all the things. And my husband, I think he's been to the doctor twice in the 24 years we've been together. He does not like doctors at all. He suffers from white coat syndrome or white coat fever. So it was a really big push to him for himself. I never pushed him, but for himself to go to the doctor. So he went to the doctor and said about his gallbladder, and they did some scans, and they said, oh, there's a little stone there, nothing much to worry about, but there's also this little shadow. Go and see this specialist. So I'd contacted the specialist. Turns out they wanted to remove his gallbladder, but they said because they're a private practice and we don't have private health insurance, it would be expensive. And so I waited over a week for them to send me a quote for me to then go, okay, yeah, let's just go ahead. And anyway, I hadn't heard back from them. And so over the weekend, my husband had, I say Dave, my husband's, I have to keep saying my husband. Over the weekend, Dave's like, the numbness down his arm and his shoulder pain was just too much. So on Monday, I went off to work and my daughter was home, and I said, well, look, if you're really worried and you want something to happen, just go into the hospital and let them know. They might push things along faster. Get rid of your gallbladder, have it all sorted. And so he Googled what the procedure was, and he was like, okay, it's not that scary. All right, I'll go in. And that was where it all just went haywire. So Sass took Dave in at lunchtime on the Monday, and he was in there for nearly 2 weeks. So with lots of tests, he ended up, within 2 days, he turned yellow. So it all happened so quickly. And they found that there were cancer growths. It had started in his bile duct. So it had gone from his bile duct. It has infiltrated through his liver. His liver is fairly badly damaged. All the lymph nodes in his stomach area. He has growth on his spine, his lungs, his esophagus, and up in his, beside his spine, near his shoulder. So the growth up there was what was causing all his shoulder pain, pain and numbness and weakness in his arm. So they sent him for an endoscopy, and while they were in there, they put a stent thingy in his bile duct because the cancer had closed that off. So the bilirubin, I think it's called, was making him yellow because it wasn't getting away. I'm not technical. I don't know all these doctor terms. I've just been Googling so much lately, all the different procedures and all the different medications that he is using. So they put this stent in. That then gave him pancreatitis. So he had pancreatitis for a couple of days. And then it all calmed down, and they started radiation on the growth on his shoulder, up the top of his spine. So they started radiation there because they were really concerned about the numbness in his arm. So he had 5 rounds of radiation for that. And yes, so I was in hospital for nearly 2 weeks. So I was up at the hospital 10 to 12 hours each day. And yeah, we just got so much support around us. The kids were really good. They were at home. We had meals delivered. We had, so much happened. So yes. So the scariest part was, though, I think it was only the second day, we'd only just found out he had cancer. So on the Thursday, we found out it was cancer. And that afternoon, the palliative care team came. And that scared us so much because all I knew of palliative care was that they are end of life. And I'm like, man, we're only a week in, not even a week into this. And here we are with palliative care already taking care of us. So that was wild. But as they explained to us, they are in charge of making sure that his pain management. So it's all about pain management from here on in. Everything they do is just about pain management and hopefully giving him a bit more time. So that is the aim now, is to pain manage, and hopefully we can do chemo and that will give him a bit more time. So what are we up to? Monday last week he started chemo, but then unfortunately on Tuesday he got an infection. And we ended up in hospital, got an ambulance into hospital. They did a heap of tests and turned out that he had a blood infection, and they got that under control, and we were able to come home Friday last week. So chemo is put on hold now until they know that the infection is gone. So we'll be back at the hospital on Monday. So fingers crossed Monday we can get another chemo plan. So the chemo is to give us more time as well. They're trying to slow the progression because it's quite aggressive form of cancer. And yeah, that's the aim right now. So on the flip side of all of that, we've had to have some really tough conversations. So Dave's mum died of cancer as well, and we cared for her up until the end. And so when Dave found out that voluntary assisted dying is now legal in Queensland, he decided that that was something that he wanted in his back pocket. So that has been a process that his oncology doctor was able to kick off for us. As of this morning, we have had our second interview. So the way it works is 3 doctors need to talk to you and assess you, because they don't want any one doctor coercing you into taking this step. And as I said, this is just something to have in Dave's back pocket. If he feels that his pain isn't being managed, that his quality of life is suffering, and then he has this in his back pocket and he can say, okay, I'm going to enact this. So what will happen is after he's been interviewed 3 times, after we've had all the paperwork witnessed by people who will not benefit from his death, we will be given a script. So there are 2 ways that this can happen. It can be an injection by the doctor. The doctor can do it intravenously, or you can do it yourself anywhere in Queensland. And that would be powder form mixed with liquid and just having a drink of medicine. And yeah, I guess I've said it so many times over the last few weeks that it doesn't scare me as much anymore. Like it when we first spoke about it, I was just, yeah, it was scary, but now I'm like, what a beautiful way of taking back your power in something that you are not in control of. Like, you get to say, my body, like, I'm done, like my body can't fight anymore. Like, so we can make it a really beautiful experience. So yeah, so that will be the aim when the time comes. If he gets to enact that he will, and it'll just be a beautiful way to say goodbye. And even though as terrible and heartbreaking and soul destroying this whole thing has been, I think that's the one positive that's come out of it, like being able to have these tough conversations. And I think I said at the start, like, that's how we advocate for ourselves. We need to be able to have these tough conversations. Like, not, I don't want anyone to have these conversations, but even conversations with your healthcare team. Like, you want to be able to tell them what you want, and you want them to go into bat for you. The doctor we spoke to this morning said, you're my boss. You tell me what you need. You tell me what you want. And I was just like, that is so enlightening. That, can you imagine going into GP and saying, I have lipedema. I need a mental health care plan. I need a healthcare plan to be able to get MLD. I need to go on the scheme to get 2 pairs of compression for the year. Like, I need a dietitian. I need an exercise physiologist. And them to be able to just give you this pack and say, here you go, make the most of it. Go look after yourself as best you can. Here's all the support. Like, that would just be amazing. And, you know, it could happen in time, but for now. So how do we try and make sure we're looking after ourselves when your world is falling apart? And that is a really tricky thing. And I really struggled. I know it's only been 7 weeks, but it feels like it's been a year. Like, it is just insane what has transpired over the last 7 weeks. And as someone said to me, oh, I don't know how you're continuing like this. I'm like, well, I don't have an option. Like, what is the option? That I curl up into the fetal position? That I just say, screw it all, I'm not doing anything for anybody anymore? Like, you can't do that. Like, you've got to keep going, but you've got to make sure that there is time set aside for you. And one of the first things I did is I re-enlisted a psychologist. I know we've spoken before that I didn't have one because the last one I had said, no, you don't need to see me. You know what you're doing. And so I did re-enlist a psychologist, and he's been amazing. So I'm seeing him every couple of weeks at the moment, and I needed that. It is really good to just be able to unmask and talk to someone about all the shit that's going on and how you're feeling and how it's impacting you. And yeah, because I was feeling I was having a bit of an identity crisis because, you know, I've been a wife or, you know, Dave's other half for 24 years. You know, that's almost half my life. So there will be some identity crisis going on, a bit of a midlife crisis. But yeah, so I started wearing compression. I'm like, okay, if I can do one thing, I'll try and wear compression. But that didn't last very long because I was quickly trying to get to the hospital, or I was doing something, and I just wasn't putting in the same amount of effort as I would when I was going to work. So I'm not working at the moment. So when I was going to work, I would wear compression and dresses and makeup and do my hair. And I was, that was part of my self-care routine. Whereas at the moment, I'm just, we're sitting around the house a lot, and, there's medication regimes that we're making sure we're getting all the pain management right. And there's so much other things that compression just felt like a bit too much. I haven't been going to P3 because, again, that's too much. And I also had to look at what I was spending, because I'm about to, we don't have any wages at the moment. That's a whole other side to this, is the paperwork involved in trying to get income protection insurances, trying to get total terminal illness. Apparently there's a terminal illness payment through Dave's Super. So we need to get that sorted. And then there's disability pensions, which we don't get because we earn too much. We got too much. But there's been so much paperwork, and there's no way one person could do it. Like, it really is a team effort trying to get all of these things done. So yes, I started dry brushing again the last week or so, and I started fasting again. I've been reading the book Fast Like a Girl, and I'm loving it. And so I decided that May was all about me just figuring stuff out, because, we've been through, April was just crazy, and May, we're starting to get into the swing of things, trying not to think too far ahead, sort of trying to be day by day. And so, fasting. Fasting I've started this last week as well. So fasting, dry brushing, they're my two things at the moment. And then when June comes around, I'm going to add in something else. Not sure what it will be yet, but there is a new gym opening near me that I have joined, and it's opening in June sometime. So I really would like to start going to the gym. My psychologist said I have to take an hour out of my day just to do whatever I want to do, which is recording podcasts, editing podcasts, going for a walk, watching a movie, whatever I want to do, but just carve out time each day for myself. And I think this has been a really good lesson for me, because we've spoken about it before, that we just think we have to do all the things, but we don't have to do all the things. If we can do one thing a day, that is all we need to do. And you need to celebrate that one thing that you've done that day, because lipedema is a chronic illness, which means it'll still be there tomorrow. It's not going anywhere. But these circumstances I'm in right now, it's not chronic, it's acute, it's terminal. Unfortunately, we're hoping Dave's here for Christmas, but they can't guarantee that. So we really don't know how much time we got. We're just trying to make the most of the time that we do have. So I don't want to then add to that I'm unwell, that I not only physically, but if I'm mentally getting down on myself because I'm not hitting all of the targets I think I'm supposed to hit. I then also, on the flip side of that, don't want to be going crazy and then feeling sick, because I know that when I have too much sugar and too much chocolate, I feel like crap, and I don't want that to happen either. So there's this really nice balance that I'm trying to find between, because the first 4 weeks I was just gorging myself on chocolate, because that was just my coping strategy. And while it felt good at the time, the next day I would feel terrible, and then I just started all again. So that was probably the last 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks of this. So the last 2 to 3 weeks I've been able to prioritize me a bit, and just trying to get this under control. So I know I've yammered on a bit here. I just really wanted to get an up-to-date report on what is going on in the Piers household, and to thank everybody. This has been a really crazy journey, and I'm glad that we have the podcast. They're the things that bring me joy, and I'm glad I still have this in my life. I think that's it for now. So thank you for listening. I will put some links below if you need to reach out and talk to somebody, because I know this could have brought up some emotions for people and some confliction, especially some of the topics that I spoke about. So thank you. Love you all. Bye. The Lipoedema Podcast 2025 is powered by Elegance Lymphatic Care. Lipoedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema Podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.